On the night of June 22nd, 1977, two young women stopped at a quiet park in Oregon after a long day of cycling. It looked peaceful, beautiful even. A river ran nearby, the sky was fading, and the place felt like a hidden corner of the world. But as darkness settled over Cline Falls, something changed. The daytime calm disappeared. The visitors left. The sounds of passing cars became rare, and inside their tent, both women began to feel the same strange fear. The feeling that they were not alone. They were exhausted. They wanted to sleep. So, they ignored it. That decision would turn one quiet night into one of the most disturbing unsolved attacks in Oregon history. Terry Jentz was 19 years old. Avra Goldman was 20. They had met as roommates at Yale and planned something bold, a bicycle trip across America. The route was enormous, thousands of miles across the country. It was meant to be a summer adventure, a test of strength, courage, and independence. At first, others were supposed to join them, but one by one, those plans fell apart. In the end, Terry and Ava decided to continue alone. They began in Oregon, riding east. Day after day, they pushed through difficult roads, long climbs, and unfamiliar towns. By June 22nd, they were already tired, but they were still moving forward. They had no idea that their journey was about to stop in the worst possible way. That evening, Terry and Ava reached Cline Falls State Park near Redmond, Oregon. It was beautiful, but it was not where they had planned to sleep. The park was more of a day-use area than a safe campsite. Overnight camping was not allowed, and it did not offer the kind of security they had promised themselves they would look for. Ava felt uneasy. Terry wanted to stop. They were tired. The light was fading. Searching for another place felt impossible, so they stayed. They set up their tent roughly 100 feet from the road, ate dinner, and spoke with a few people nearby. Some were surprised to hear that two young women were cycling across the country alone. Then, one by one, everyone left. As night came, Cline Falls no longer felt like the same place. The cheerful park became silent. The open space became isolated. The river, once calming, now sounded cold and endless. Terry felt it first, a strange warning inside her body. Not a thought exactly, but an instinct. The feeling of being watched. She told Ava. Ava felt it too, but fear can be hard to trust when you are exhausted. They told themselves it was nothing, just darkness, just tired minds, just the unfamiliar silence of a remote place. Soon, fatigue took over, and the two friends fell asleep. Around 11:30 that night, Terry woke to the sound of a vehicle. At first, she thought it might be teenagers driving around the park, maybe someone messing around after dark. But within seconds, the sound changed. The vehicle left the road. It jumped the curb. It moved through the park, weaving past picnic tables, heading straight toward the tent. Terry heard the engine getting closer. Then came the impact. The truck slammed into the tent and rolled over it, crushing the fabric down around the two women. This was not an accident. Someone had driven directly into them on purpose.
That evening, Terry and Ava reached Cline Falls State Park near Redmond, Oregon.
She could barely move.
It was beautiful, but it was not where they had planned to sleep.
The tent had collapsed around her, and the force of the truck pressed against her chest and shoulders. Then the driver got out. Terry could not clearly see his face, but she knew it was a man. He appeared young, physically fit, and dressed like a cowboy. He carried an axe. He went to Ava first. Terry listened helplessly as her friend screamed for him to leave them alone. Then he came toward Terry, still trapped, injured, and terrified. She begged him to stop. She told him to take whatever he wanted. But this was not robbery. The attacker returned to the truck, reversed it off Terry's body, then came back again. At one point, Terry raised her hands and caught the weapon above her chest. She kept pleading. Then, suddenly, the man stopped. He got back into his truck and drove away. When the truck disappeared, the park became silent again. The attack had lasted only moments, but the damage was devastating. Terry crawled toward Ava. She tried to comfort her friend, but quickly realized Ava's injuries were life-threatening. Terry herself was badly hurt, but somehow, through shock and pain, she forced herself to move. She made it to the road. Soon, another vehicle approached. Inside were two teenagers, Bill and Darlene. They stopped when they saw Terry standing in the road, covered in blood and barely able to speak. Terry's first thought was not herself. It was Ava. Bill and Darlene rushed to help. As they did, another set of headlights appeared near the edge of the park. For one terrifying moment, Terry believed the attacker had come back. But the vehicle turned away. Bill and Darlene loaded the women into the truck and drove them to the hospital. Somehow, both women survived. After midnight, police arrived at Cline Falls. The campsite was destroyed. The tent was torn apart. The ground still held tire marks from the attacker's truck. Investigators studied those tracks and believed the vehicle may have had several bald tires, with one tire showing stronger tread than the others. But the evidence was limited. There was no license plate, no clear face, no obvious motive. Ava remembered nothing of the attack because of her head injuries. Terry had stayed conscious, but she had not seen the man's face clearly. What she remembered was an impression: a young man, fit, dressed like a cowboy, neat in appearance, and strangely careful about how he looked. It was not enough. But it was something. For weeks the case seemed to go nowhere. Then a name began moving through the town. Richard. He was local. He was young. He dressed like a cowboy. People knew him as someone with a temper. Police interviewed him more than once. He did not provide a clear account of where he had been on the night of June 22nd. His girlfriend, Janie, would later become one of the most important voices in the case. She told police that Richard had been violent with her, and that the day after the attack, he had tried to drown her in a pond. She also believed he was responsible for what happened at Cline Falls. But her warning was not treated with the urgency it deserved. There were more troubling details. Janie later said Richard changed the tires on his truck after the attack. She also said a toolbox that had been in his truck was no longer there, a toolbox where he was known to keep a hatchet. Police gave Richard polygraph tests, but the results were inconclusive. There were suspicions, there were rumors, there were statements from people who knew him, but there was no solid evidence strong enough to bring charges. By 1979, the official investigation ended without an arrest. For Terry and Ava, there was no justice, only survival. Both women returned to life, but life was not the same. Ava recovered, though the attack left her with lasting vision problems. She wanted to move forward and not live inside that night forever. Terry tried to continue too. For years, she did not chase the case. She did not want to become consumed by it. But the nightmares stayed. The unanswered questions stayed. And after nearly 15 years, Terry reached a point where surviving was no longer enough. She needed to know who had done this. So she went back to Oregon, back to the town, back to the place she had promised herself she would never return to. Terry began interviewing people herself. She knocked on doors, she asked questions. She searched through memories that the official case had left behind. And again, she heard the same name: Richard. People in Redmond had not forgotten the attack. Many believed they knew who had done it. Former girlfriends and locals described a man with a history of violence, drug use, and strange behavior. Some said he brought up the Cline Falls attack just to deny involvement, even when no one had accused him. To Terry, the picture became clearer. But there was another devastating discovery. The official records were gone. Interviews, photographs, physical evidence, the material that might have answered everything, had been lost. The case had not only gone cold, it had been allowed to disappear. Terry's investigation helped convince Oregon State Police to reopen the case. But by then, the law had already closed the door. At the time of the attack, Oregon's statute of limitations for attempted murder was only 3 years. That meant the deadline for prosecution had passed long before Terry began searching for answers. Even if police believed they knew who did it, they could not bring the case to trial. Terry helped push for a change in the law so future victims would not face the same barrier. But the change could not go back in time. For Terry and Ava, justice remained out of reach. The attack at Cline Falls was not just a story about violence. It was a story about instinct ignored, about evidence lost, about warnings dismissed, about 2 women who survived something that should have killed them. Ava went on to build a life and became a physician. Terry later told the story in her book, Strange Piece of Paradise, using the truth as a way to finally move forward. But one question still hangs over Cline Falls. If the signs were there from the beginning, why did justice never come?